Throughout history, cultures around the world have told tales of terrifying and awe-inspiring creatures, monsters that lurk in the shadows, guard sacred places, or challenge the bravest of heroes. From the fire-breathing dragons of Europe to the shape-shifting yoki of Japan, these mythical beasts embody the fears, beliefs, and imaginations of their people. This series will explore some of the most legendary monsters of mythology, uncovering their origins, powers, and the stories that keep them alive to this day. Welcome to Myth and Lores, a journey into the dark and divine. Without further ado, let's jump into another lore. The Kraken is one of the most enduring and terrifying mythological creatures steeped in darkness and mystery. Though its origins and interpretations have evolved, its presence in maritime folklore has always been synonymous with the peril of the deep sea. Here's a dive into the dark lore and myth of the Kraken. Origins of the Kraken. The Kraken is most famously associated with Scandinavian and Norse folklore, though it has appeared in many seafaring cultures throughout history. The Kraken comes from the Norwegian word krake, meaning a twisted or crooked old tree, likely referring to the creature's tentacle-like appendages, which resembled gnarled branches. In its earliest forms, the Kraken was believed to be a giant sea monster lurking off the coast of Norway and Greenland. Its first mention in written form was in the 1700s when a Danish-Norwegian bishop and scientist Erik Pontoppidan described the creature in his work, The Natural History of Norway. Pontoppidan described the Kraken as a massive sea creature roughly the size of an island, capable of dragging ships and their crews to their doom. However, long before that, tales of giant sea creatures in the sea existed among sailors, particularly those who encountered the vast and mysterious waters of the North Atlantic. The Kraken's physical description varies, but it is typically depicted as a colossal cephalopod, resembling a giant squid or octopus with massive tentacles. Its size is often described as enormous, with tentacles large enough to encircle and sink entire ships. In some versions of the myth, the Kraken is said to resemble a giant, floating island rising from the depths only to reveal its monstrous form when provoked or hungry. The creature's enormous tentacles are stuff of legend, capable of pulling entire vessels underwater. It's often imagined to attack with unrelenting fury, dragging sailors down into the depths where they are either drowned or eaten alive by the Kraken's terrifying maw. The Kraken and sailor folklore. Sailors were, of course, the primary purveyors of Kraken tales. For centuries, sailors would tell stories of mysterious disappearances at sea, ships that vanished without a trace, entire crews swallowed whole by the ocean. With its immense power and terrifying unpredictability, the Kraken became an all-encompassing explanation for these disappearances. One common story goes that the Kraken rises from the ocean depths and creates massive whirlpools, pulling ships into its grasp. Once the ship is sunk, the Kraken either consumes the sailors or drags them down into the abyss. In some versions of the myth, the creature simply capsizes the ship and leaves the wreckage with no bodies found and no explanation other than the Kraken itself. Another aspect of Kraken lore involves its ability to disguise itself. The creature is said to often float motionless on the water's surface, resembling an island. This will lure unsuspecting sailors to approach, only for the Kraken to reveal its true nature once they were too close to escape. The dark role of the Kraken in Norse mythology. While the Kraken is not directly a figure in ancient Norse mythology, it draws strong ties to the larger pantheon of sea creatures in these myths. The Norse world was full of monstrous beings, many of which were tied to the forces of chaos and destruction. In this sense, the Kraken is often seen as a manifestation of the forces of nature that could not be tamed. The Kraken's massive form may also symbolize the ancient Norse belief in the primal power of the ocean. The sea was both a life-giving force and a place of great danger. The Kraken embodies the destructive aspects of the sea, representing the terror that will come from venturing into the unknown, where the veil between the mortal world and the supernatural is thin. Over time, the Kraken evolved from a simple sea monster into a symbol of fear, isolation, and the unknowable dangers of the deep. The dark lore surrounding the Kraken reflects humanity's ancient fear of the vast, uncharted ocean and the terrifying creatures that might lurk beneath its surface. The Kraken also been interpreted as a metaphor for overwhelming forces, whether natural, social, or psychological, that are beyond human control. Just as the Kraken rises from the depths with terrifying power, these forces can suddenly emerge, wreaking havoc on individuals or societies. In modern times, popular culture has embraced the Kraken, often appearing in films, books, and video games. One of his most famous appearances was in the 2003 film Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest, where the Kraken was portrayed as a massive, tentacled behemoth that served as a monstrous servant of the sea god Davy Jones. Despite the more romanticized versions of the Kraken in popular culture, its deeper and darker origins still influence its representation in many stories. In modern horror and fantasy, the Kraken remains a symbol of unknowable terror, representing the primal, uncontrollable forces of nature that lie beyond human understanding. The Kraken fits within the long tradition of maritime legends, such as the Leviathan from the Bible or the Luxor from Caribbean folklore. These creatures represent the primal terror of the deep sea, where even the most skilled sailors are at the mercy of forces they cannot understand or control. Historically, the Kraken may have been inspired by real sea creatures, such as the giant squid, which can grow up to 40 feet long. Sailors who encountered these creatures in the open sea may have exaggerated their size and power, blending reality with myth. Many sailors have reported sightings of massive tentacle creatures, leading some to believe that encounters inspired the Kraken with giant squid or octopuses. However, the true essence of the Kraken is found not in any specific creature, but in its role as a mythic symbol of danger, mystery, and destruction. The dark lore of the Kraken is a tale woven from ancient fears of the sea's depths and the unknowable horrors that might lurk beneath. It is a creature born from the imagination of sailors, a reflection of their deep-seated anxieties about the dangers of the ocean and the possibility of forces far beyond their understanding. Whether as a terrifying sea monster, a metaphor for overwhelming power, or an enduring symbol of nature's chaos, the Kraken inspires awe and fear, remaining one of the most influential figures in maritime mythology. That concludes this lore. If you like what you heard, please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next lore. Bye.